Good morning. Glad you could join us. I want to retell a story that you've probably heard before, but it's about the writer of one of the most beloved songs of all time, Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, you take a look in iTunes, like everybody has sung Amazing Grace and recorded it at some point. Okay, slight exaggeration. But it is just a powerful, universally loved song. Whenever a family comes to me and they're not certain what to end a funeral with, a memorial with, it is the go-to song. There's lots of other great songs. Grace is like water. It goes to the lowest point. And the truth of the matter is, Amazing Grace was not written by somebody that you might have expected. It was written by a guy who ended up being a preacher, but he was anything but that in the start. John Newton was somebody who was a sailor who was pressed into service in the Royal Navy, and he was dismissed for insubordination. So that's you know, not a good sign. Then he turned to a career of trafficking slaves. And even amongst that rough and tumble group, he was known for his blasphemy and cursing. I mean, other sailors were like, dude, take it down 1,000, would you? I mean, that's who he was. But he had a dramatic conversion at sea. There's other, as I recall, there's other people that were killed, and somehow he survived. And he gave his life to Christ. You might just think, okay, so you're disqualified from preaching the gospel, all the bad stuff that you've done. And people are going to say all kinds of bad stuff about you because you've got this horrible past and you can't hide it. But he went on to study theology. The Church of England actually appointed him to a parish. And then he'd never deny his past, and he'd always say it's undeserved. I mean, he understood the grace by which he stood. At one point, he actually wrote in his journal, "Thou hast given an apostate a name and a place among thy children, called an infidel to the ministry of the gospel." He knew what his past was, but he also knew what his future was, and he knew that this grace was amazing. He became a leader in the abolitionist movement. He wanted to stop the slave trade. He wanted to stop slavery. He became a spiritual director of sorts to a very prominent politician. His name was William Wilberforce, who was very involved in the abolitionist movement. And he encouraged him because Wilberforce did not give up. For 40 years he fought the battle. What battle are you fighting today? What is it that you think, oh, I'm just throwing in the towel? John Newton wouldn't let Wilberforce do that. The Spirit of Jesus doesn't want you to throw in the towel today. People might criticize you, but heaven is cheering for you today. He faced opposition, sneers, second-guessing, all sorts of people that just said, oh, you know, this guy is just one of those religious hypocrites. I always see that too. Like, there's people that are in prison and they come to Christ and people are like, oh, what a hypocrite. Well, if you're sitting in prison, you might start reading a Bible too. And I'm sure some of them are hypocrites. The truth of the matter is, it's by grace and grace alone that any of us stand. But Newton did not try to defend himself. He simply said that he pointed to any good in himself, and he said, God gets all the glory for this. And I like what Yancey says, and I'll give him a shout out. This is from a foreword to a book that he wrote, The Disgrace, From Disgrace to Amazing Grace. But, you know, sometimes there's a scent of scandal that goes along with grace. Think about it. You got David in the Old Covenant, and he's a murderer. He's a murderer and an adulterer. Now, there's some scandal that goes. Moses was a murderer. Think about it. How about a traitor? You got the Apostle Peter. He becomes the leader in the early church. Yeah, a lot of people could have accused all these guys of different things. They could have said, I've disqualified myself. But they believed in a God who could forgive them and receive that. And then you've got a persecutor of the church in the Apostle Paul. And we quote him more than we quote Jesus. Grace always has about it the scent of scandal. May God's amazing grace be just poured out in your heart, your life, your world today. May you be a conduit of His grace to other people as well. God bless you. Have a great day.